Travis, my good soul. In December 1945, after the end of World War II, scholars then found the Nag Hammadi texts, and in there they found what was called the Gospel of Thomas, or what is now called the Gospel of Thomas. It is a unique style in which Jesus is the first person in the composition. And so it doesn't follow the Gospels that were approved of by the Constantinian Church. And thus the Constantinian Church, i.e. the Vatican, refused to accept this as legitimate. No. But scholars make the mistake of assuming that it's a Christian document, that Jesus is the same Jesus of the Gospels. And yeah, it's the same character, but these were composed of by Jews, and so it's the religion of the Jews, it's the learning of the Jews, it's the interpretation of the Jews, it's the Jewish Christ, which means it is not literal history. Those events did not happen in the Roman period. They are prophetic scriptures about the Jewish Christ to come in the future. And very likely should also have the dates of the days and hours of when he would come. If you're brand new to my channel, you've got a lot of stuff to catch up on. And so it's typically dated around 660 CE to 140 CE. The Gospel of Thomas, as I acquired my Grand Master's translation, I took Biblical Hebrew at the University of Lethbridge by Walter Emanuel Aufrecht, who was the direct student of Thomas O. Lambden of Harvard, thus Grandmaster. We used his textbook for our lessons. And it starts off by saying, "Whosoever finds the interpretation of these sayings will not experience death." Thomas O. Lambden, he found the interpretation, he's dead. That's not what it means. And so the popular part is from here, and this is what the Catholic Church finds to be heresy. Verse 3, Jesus said, "If those who lead you say to you, 'See, the kingdom is in the sky,' then the birds of the sky will precede you. If they say to you, 'It is in the sea,' then the fish will precede you. Rather, the kingdom is inside of you, and it is outside of you. When you come to know yourselves, then you will become known, and you will realize that it is you who are the sons of the living Father. But if you will not know yourselves, you dwell in poverty, and it is you who are that poverty. So last night, I watched Stigmata, had to purchase the DVD and then convert it to a digital format, and then had to reconvert it so that the subtitles would be in the video. Patricia Arquette is the main character, and it's a different interest of mine. Female, obviously, is my interest in the movie, but not because it's a chick flick where I cry like I did with Jennifer Lopez's second act the other day. There were no reconverting necessary for subtitle or captions below. But this one was more of women suffering and me crying for that reason. That's why I like this movie. Plus, it had Paleo-Hebrew script, which they wrongly called Aramaic script. But the Gospel of Thomas was in Greek, not in Aramaic. So there's some problems. But nonetheless, it was a fascinating movie for me with all of that stuff involved, and thus, yes, that's why Stargate is my #1 favorite movie, and will always be until I get to produce my movie series, TV series with spin-offs. I've got it all planned out, but there's nothing I can do with it. I guess I could write them into a book series, but that's going to take up all my time. I won't be able to do these videos for you. Just as a matter of side note, I posted on my academia page this morning translation lesson #1 using Genesis chapter 1 verse 1 to help teach how to translate Genesis or Paleo-Hebrew. If I remember, I'll provide you the link, as I'll try to remember to provide you the link for the Gospel of Thomas too. In the movie, as the Wikipedia page also indicates, that the Catholic Church considers this heresy because it doesn't conform and comply to their doctrine. It is a challenge to the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church is the kingdom of God on earth. And so for a publication to emerge that is the closest that they believe to their Jesus threatens the authority of the Catholic Church. And this emergence gave rise to spiritual Christianity, where people were leaving organized religion to worship Jesus directly. And everybody, of course, misinterprets these sayings, and thus are dying. So you have to take it into the context of the Jewish mindset of the day. As the book of Samson, you can also call him Jesus, but the author chose to call him Samson because Samson has a specific translation to the meaning, and thus the story is tied to his name. Just like in Genesis, every single character has a name meaning that applies to their story, and then after they complete their name meaning, they are given a new name. That is very significant. And so that understanding of the Jews is necessary for proper interpretation. And And so you need to understand that they're talking about family cycle of life. Academia, I just posted it. The root word of head, resh, is spouse, and thus the God spouse, the God who is the spouse. That is the Father, Father Yah, if you've seen my other translations of Genesis. And he has children, which means he has a wife, and she's in chapter 2. She's the moisture for which Adam is created, as Father Yah breathes life into Adam. And then Son Yah is the one who creates and is the creation in chapter 1, and then is given his new name, Yahweh, in Genesis chapter 2, verse 4. They did not have chapters, they did not have verses, it was all one text. And so that needs to be understood. The biblical Hebrew text was created 800 to 1000 CE. Yeah, after Constantine, after Islam even. And so, what does the kingdom inside of you represent, and outside of you? I already gave you the clue. Seed, egg, baby. We are the kingdom because the Christ of the kingdom in the future is human, not a supernatural deity of any non-Trinitarian or Trinitarian nature. That is the Jewish Christ. This is what he's explaining here. And so Jesus is that future human being. And so it is necessary to have a male with seed and a female with egg to create baby. It's real simple. And so the baby is the king, and he would rule over a kingdom of survivors of the apocalypse. Assuming that there are believers, right, Mormons? Joseph Smith tells you all this. And this is where it ties in to the Church of Jesucristos de los Santos de los Últimos Días. How did I do it? 2 Nephi, chapter 3, verse 5. Did this for you yesterday too. Oops. Chapter 3. There we go. And so this is Lehi talking to his children. This one is Joseph, who was born in the wilderness. And there's a reason why he was born in the wilderness. And the learning of the Jews. Remember the Book of Mormon, also learning of the Jews, just like the Bible, learning of the Jews, not literal history, not Jesus. All the characters who are protagonists are the Christ character of the future, and there are star dates given for when these events will occur in the future. And so, Joseph of Egypt is being read from the brass plates, which are in Egyptian. And he is saying that Joseph of Egypt obtained a promise of the Lord that out of the fruit of his loins, seed, egg, baby. Baby is the fruit of the seed of males, requiring egg of females. As the baby is in the womb, the baby is encased in water, just like the earth in Genesis 1, and then the water breaks, divides, and the baby passes over, out of the womb on dry land, and takes its first breath of life to be given all rights and privileges according to the 14th Amendment, Section 1. I saw Overtime with Bill Maher with, what's her name? Can't remember her name offhand, but she was talking about how she wants nothing to do with babies, just like Bill doesn't. But she said that Roe v. Wade being overturned was the right constitutional thing to do. And I'm just face-palming going, oh my God, no wonder I don't like listening to Ann Coulter. That's her name. She just needs to be ball-gagged. She cannot be allowed to speak because so much hate and ignorance flows from her mouth. But I did find it funny that Bill had to remind her at the beginning to stay in control. But no, the 14th Amendment, Section 1, fetuses have no rights. What the Supreme Court did was make law, saying that the 14th Amendment, Section 1, is wrong, and they then made the law. That is not how the Supreme Court works or functions. If it is unconstitutional, they were supposed to say, nope, sorry, 14th Amendment, Section 1, which was supposed to be the case, but it wasn't, it was something else, is unconstitutional. Congress needs to then go back to the drawing board and rewrite it so that the Supreme Court can approve it, assuming that somebody sues for it to go to the Supreme Court. That is the process. The Supreme Court does not create law, but they did when they overturned Roe v. Wade. They null and voided the Constitution, and that was an act of seditious conspiracy, because they were purposely put in to do that. To overthrow the Constitution, according to the Kingmen in the Book of Mormon. Prophecy. Oh no, we're all going to die. Because you aren't learning the interpretation of the Gospel of Thomas. And thus, never die, the perpetuation of the human race. Ta-da! Out of the fruit of his loins, the Lord God would raise up. There's your key trigger to Deuteronomy 18:15 through 19. The Jewish Christ of the future, the man like Moses. Joseph Smith also calls him the one mighty and strong. A righteous branch unto the house of Israel, not the Messiah. So you have a Joseph who has one branch that is Joseph, and this is Joseph Smith Jr. And then you have another branch that is the Messiah. You see this? So yeah, I hope you're getting inspired here. Joseph Smith Sr. is the one who's writing this. This is the replacement of the 116 pages. Senior had to do it. William Morgan had written it. Joseph Smith let Martin Harris steal them. And so Senior had to rewrite them, because he knew that original 116 pages of William Morgan, because it was at his Master Mason Lodge in Canandaigua, New York, 9/11, 1826. Remember? I'm doing all these videos for you for a reason. I'm supposed to be following along. Can't just pick and choose because you like the title and think that I'm just bashing the church. I'm trying to make you immortal. And so, yes, it's Hiram Smith, through which the Mormon Messiah shall come. I'm getting ahead of myself, but yeah, this is what we're leading to. You all know this is Joseph Smith that is being prophesied here. Whether you're a Mormon and believe that it's literal history and that they're actually prophesying of the coming of Joseph Smith, or if you're a critic and you know that this has to do with Joseph Smith, and that it's Joseph Smith Jr. who wrote it with his Captain Kidd fantasies. No, both wrong. Bad Mormons. Bad ex-Mormons, former Mormons. Bad. And so this is what Joseph Smith Sr. is telling us. It's the learning of the Jews, Jewish Kabbalism specifically, the house of, or the New Israelites that he was a part of, but not a member of. You need to understand that. He did not practice polygamy. He even tells us he wanted nothing to do with membership in Nathaniel Wood's New Israelites, because membership, you get plural wives, spiritual wives, as they called it. He says no. He writes in the Book of Mormon, bad. Polygamy, bad. 6 times in the Book of Mormon, bad. And yet, for some reason, ex-Mormons and Mormons all believe that Joseph Smith in 1838 began the practice of polygamy as a Danite leader, murdering Mormons who didn't conform to the new name of his church, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Oh, dear God. And Brigham Young, just following orders, as the new president of the Quorum of the 12, took Joseph Smith's place to lead the church. He's just following orders. He's a good guy, not responsible whatsoever for the coup of Joseph's church in 1838. Not whatsoever. None whatsoever. So, God. I mean, I guess maybe none of you watch murder mysteries of any kind to know that people get framed and set up to be accused of the murder that they didn't commit. So the real people who committed the murder gets away with their crimes and flees the country into Mexico territory and establishes their kingdom. Supposed to be no kingdom. 2 Nephi chapter 10. I did this last night. No kingdom in America. And yet, Brigham Young, kingdom in the United States. Not technically, because Mexico hadn't seceded, but once they seceded, Brigham Young's kingdom instantly gone. But he didn't think so. It was not until but he still called it the kingdom. And so, Mormons just so blatantly obvious, and you're not getting it. So anyway, and then they tell you that after Joseph Smith, the branch which is to be broken off, nevertheless to be remembered in the covenants of the Lord, that after Joseph Smith will come the Messiah to be made manifest unto Mormons in the latter days. That's this religion. It's not Jewish, it's not Christian, it's not Islamist, it's not Buddhist, it's not Hindu, none of the other religions. It is Mormonism. This is the Mormon religion, that Joseph Smith is the founding Christ, and that he will be murdered and betrayed and his church stolen, along with his scriptures stolen, and they will be tampered with and destroyed and edited and forged documents. It's all right there in Nephi's vision of the great and abominable church. Plain and precious truths removed, such as monogamy, gone and replaced with polygamy. Actual tithing replaced with section 119. Adam on Diamond replacing Southern Illinois. And the name of the church replaced, etc., etc., etc. All the things that violate the Book of Mormon and section 130, where Brigham Young is trying to say, nope, the first vision that Joseph Smith gave back in 1838, no. It's literal history now. Non-Trinitarian. No. It's Joseph Smith Sr. with his other branch-off son through Hiram. That's the first vision. The second vision is that branch off from Hiram coming to Joseph Smith. His name is Nephi. Joseph Smith is correcting section 27, verse 5, the key for Ezekiel 37. Stick of Judah, stick of Joseph. It's Nephi, not Moroni. And so he's described as Emmanuel, the Jewish Christ name. And he says he's a messenger, stigmata. I am just a messenger. Which is Malachi. And so the first quote he gives from Malachi, the day that shall burn as an oven. And so, yeah, you got to put all these things together, guys. Learning of the Jews. And yeah, I know that Bruce R. McConkie led the disinformation campaign with the footnoting, purposely leading you away and astray. That's why I'm here, to help you out, to give you eternal life. And so, yeah, we can confirm this for you, as they do not footnote it. So I've got to do it for you. Make the corrections that they refuse to do. Section 107, verse 91, 92. And again, the duty of the president of the office of the high priesthood, i.e. Joseph Smith, is to preside over the whole church and to be like unto Moses, the Jewish Christ. Joseph Smith is the founding Jewish Christ, right there. That's what it says. That's what it means. That's what it's interpreted to be. Can't use Jesus here to say, oh, there's the man like Moses who's the prophet, and then there's Jesus who's the prophet of the Roman period time who fails. And no. And so this is who Mormons are supposed to be looking for as he'll demonstrate the gifts. And I'll give you a hint. Nelson botched translator, seer, revelator, translator, prophet. Nelson has none of these. He hasn't made any predictions. He kept them a super sacred secret from you when he called China. Learned how serious creeping death would be in 2020. You know, the Exodus year. Because you take all the events of the Exodus and you plug them into 2020's events. Oh, exact pattern match. Isn't that interesting? All these things are going on, Mormons, and you're missing them. Even you, ex-Mormons and former Mormons, you're missing all this stuff because you're stuck on Christian Jesus. You're not using the learning of the Jews. And then we can go to section 103, which is Joseph Smith's key to interpreting, talking about the latter-day Zion being restored on 8 April 2024. Yeah, conference weekend was supposed to be the big event. But Jesus was supposed to suddenly come to his temple rededication of the Salt Lake Temple with the inverted pentagram on the keystone of the doors. And then he was going to be coronated and revealed on his throne. But oops, still going to be another 2 more years before they're completed. Oh, that sucks, Nelson. And so the other question is, are they going to fail again with the day that shall burn as an oven? Because that's 8 April 2024, according to their interpretation of Revelation chapter 19. The solar eclipse on the back of the white horse with Jupiter in Aries. The Lamb. There are 2 churches, Mormons. One is the church you're in, or the one you left. The other you don't believe in. The Church of the Lamb, the actual Jewish Christ. Therefore I will raise up unto the Mormons a man who shall lead them like as Moses, the Jewish Christ. A Mormon. So, which branch off, Travis? Or is it Brigham Young's true succession from Joseph? Dear God. There's no way this is a branch off. They're a succession. This is a branch off. Brigham Young created his own church, stole Joseph Smith and the Book of Mormon, and changed them. This is blatantly obvious. But nonetheless, for Mormons are the children of Israel in all of the scriptures. You're the Egyptians, you're the Israelites, you're the Jews, you're the Philistines. Whatever Jewish author is using for the people, that's you, Mormons. And the seed of Abraham. You're not supernatural. You still had seed, egg, baby. Just like the Christ. And you must needs be led out of bondage. Oh, you're in the great and abominable church. Well, is Joseph Smith a true prophet? Oops, uh-oh, conundrum. Even for ex and former Mo's. Dear God. Well, yeah, the church does seem to match with the great and abominable church talked about in the Book of Mormon, but Joseph can't be a prophet because it's Captain Kidd. Senior and Sidney Rigdon. Dear God. Joseph Smith Sr. is the man. Dear God, if you only would just use the learning of the Jews, you would see how awesome Joseph Smith Sr. is, who saved America on 9/11/1826, and is responsible for the Book of Mormon and setting up his sons to lead the church, and to set up Hiram to be the one to be the lineage for the Messiah of Mormons. And that's why only Hiram Smith's wife with her son Joseph Fielding Smith Sr. went with Brigham Young, because she was told she needed to. And so, as I've also told you, John Solomon Fulmer, the only Mormon who did not murder Joseph Smith, 2 Nephi chapter 10. Just did it last night. Oh, you're not watching, huh? Yeah, Mormons murdered Joseph. John Solomon Fulmer was the only one who supported Joseph Smith. He went to Carthage jail to defend him from the enemy. But Joseph Smith whispered into his ear, while the others weren't listening, and told him that he needed to be preserved and to go with Brigham Young, so that his lineage would connect with Hiram's lineage to be the Christ. I'm about to cry, so we need to start thinking of something else. And so, yes, Joseph Smith knew Brigham Young was the enemy. 19 July 1840. He calls out Brigham Young in that meeting. Says that Brigham is Judas, and that Brigham will betray and pay the Judas price to have Joseph murdered. And so, sure enough, President Russell Marion Nelson, right before Thanksgiving last year, rushed to produce the ledger of those Mormons of the Danites who paid Brigham Young to murder Joseph Smith. That is the Judas price money. That book of the law, the Judas price. So I do need to bring that picture over too. So much to do. So much to do, and I still don't have my laptop. I still don't know if it's going to survive. It does appear that it was a cyber terrorist attack to silence me before the big conference to destroy Mormons. Because to keep them from interpreting the Gospel of Thomas. And then we'll close. We're done. Whoops. In Moses, selections from the book of Moses. No, not her. Chapter 7, verse 53. And the Lord said, Blessed is he through whose seed Messiah shall come. For he said, I am Messiah, the King of Zion. The kingdom of God was within you, Mormons, for the latter-day king over Zion. But Joseph Smith warned you, and you didn't do it. You missed the Exodus in 2020. Joseph Smith was awesome for that one. It was just, oh my God. He used the Book of Mormon to give us the date of the Exodus through Lehi's Exodus. 600 years before the coming of Christ? No. There was a sign in the heavens, though. And it's just, oh my God. You rule, Joseph Smith Sr. In addition to these, he quoted the 11th chapter of Isaiah, saying that it was about to be fulfilled. Yeah, Joseph Smith Jr. and the future Messiah through Hiram. That's what Isaiah is talking about. He quoted also the 3rd chapter of Acts, which is a quoting from Deuteronomy 18, 15 through 19. But Joseph Smith purposely sends you here. And it's interesting because he says 22nd, 23rd verses precisely as they stand in our New Testament. Have you looked it up? Those of you who have been watching me for a while now, who have heard me talk about this, have you looked it up? You can't just come to my channel with itching ears. You have to study. because I'll give you a hint, it's not cut off, which is what he quotes. He says that that prophet, the Jewish Christ, is our Christ. We've already gone over it. It's in the Book of Mormon, section 103. But the day had not yet come when they, Mormons, who would not hear the Christ's voice, should be, is it cut off or is it utterly destroyed? So not just dead from not knowing the interpretation of the Gospel of Thomas, but soon would come. And so yeah, maybe they'll fail. They've failed numerous times in the past. They kind of suck. But the election this year, yeah, that's, if they can't do it before, the election is there as the final solution. They're already setting it up. They've already told us what they're going to do. They've already told us that America will fall if they can't do it before. If the day that shall burn as an oven will not come before, America will fall and collapse for this election. And that's exactly what the Danites did in 1838 to Joseph Smith. Their secret headquarters at Adam-on-Diamond, they went down to tamper with the election in Daviess County, election fraud and decertifying the election, forcing a judge and the sheriff to certify that Joseph Smith was there and that their candidate is the winner, and that started the Civil War. It's not the Mormon War. It's the Danites who cooed the election and cooed Joseph's church, threatening Mormons that Joseph Smith is now the Danite leader and you join us or you're going to die. And so Benjamin Franklin Johnson talks about how he moved his family to Adam-on-Diamond and was arrested and threatened to deny the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and he never denied his testimony. Yeah, he did. He became a Danite. And so the leadership was purged. Thomas B. Marsh chased out, had nothing to do with his wife, defending her honor, and mean old Joseph excommunicating him. Joseph Smith was in Liberty Jail. He didn't excommunicate him. It was Brigham Young who sent him a letter saying, you need to appear before us on March 17th, 1839. I refer to Deuteronomy 19 for false accusers and the punishment affixed for false accusers. March 17th. And when was the Relief Society? What day was that organized? For priesthood and priesthood office? What day again? Seed, egg, baby for the Mormon Christ to restore Joseph's church. For Mormons who would listen. They knew. So, yeah, that's how Brigham Young ascended to the throne of the missionaries who were supposed to preach that the Book of Mormon is a learning of the Jews, not another testament of Jesus Christ. That the church was the learning of the Jews, not Christian. That Jesus is not our Christ, but the learning of the Jews' Christ is our Christ. So the Joseph Smith history says evil disposed and designing persons militating against Joseph and his church. And so if you go to the Joseph Smith papers, you will see that, sure enough, Brigham Young, as Willard Richards, changed the name that Joseph gave for the church, adding Jesus Christ. And thus, verse 19, Jesus Christ, created in the first creed of Christianity, is an abomination of the great and abominable church. And Nelson, what is the name of this church again? What do we have to say the full name of? Why are Mormons still Mormon? Oh, right. They don't want to believe the truth. Why are ex-Mormons not paying attention to this? Joseph Smith has to be wrong. None of it can be true. Anti-Semites are